everyone is enjoying the new freedoms, particularly in Scotland, where we've been eating out, possibly in the rain, spot of retail therapy perhaps, and from Monday we'll even be able to hug our loved ones again, which has been long awaited. So although the Scottish Government guidance is to remain working from home wherever practicable, naturally many occupiers are looking ahead to a time, hopefully in the next couple of months, where their workforce will be allowed to return to the office on a more permanent model. And I don't think anyone can deny the really important role that technology has played throughout the whole pandemic. And looking forward, the question for us is, like, how do we embrace what technology has to offer in the post-COVID office and make the most of what technology can offer? So I'm delighted to be joined today by Raj Krishnamurthy, CEO of Freespace, who's been working with corporate occupiers such as CMS, PwC and MasterCard to develop and deliver technology-based work solutions. So for the first part of today's workshop, Raj is going to talk us through what Freespace have been working on, and there'll be an opportunity to ask Raj some questions at the end. And then for the second half of the workshop, we'd like to break out into some breakout rooms if possible. And we've prepared a couple of questions, all centered around the theme of returning to the office post-COVID and the use of technology. We'll be in the breakout rooms for 15 minutes, and then we can head back into this main room for a bit of a wrap up. Just to mention that the event is being recorded, as usual, by the BCO. So we can phase out anybody's pictures that doesn't want to appear in the recording. So in the meantime, without further ado, Raj, over to you.
Thank you very much, Teresa, much appreciated. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to be here with all of you. Really pleased to take this opportunity to talk to all of you. Can you hear me okay? Am I audible? Yeah, okay, excellent. So yeah, first things first, I want to make all of you very, very jealous because there is an office. This is what an office looks like. People that are there, they are working, and they're all like sit on tables. And if you know, remember back a year ago how you used to do that, we're actually doing that right now. We've been doing that through the lockdown because we are a manufacturing site as well. But more recently, we managed to bring more people in with practicing social distancing, and we've kind of made the transition. Interestingly, during the lockdown, our business has become larger. We've grown. We went from something like 40 employees to nearly 85 employees as it stands today. So obviously the reason for that is the solutions and technologies that we put out has really kind of caught a wave, if you may. There's a lot of interest from clients, and I'm hoping in the next about 20 minutes or so, I can whiz you through some of the concepts and ideas that we're putting out that is catching the attention of clients, and also hopefully be able to give you snippets of conversation from the recent client internal seminar that we've had, where clients were sharing with each other how they're using the solution to deploy it across their portfolio. So let me start off, if you may, with a brief overview. I think we may not have time for me to get introductions from all of you. Just want to see if I can unplug. Are you able to hear me okay still? I just had to change a little bit on my audio.
Yeah, I still hear you.
Is it still okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. And can you see my screen properly as well? Yeah,
excellent. Perfect.
Excellent. So yeah, I might not get the introduction from all of you, but again, my name is Raj Krishnamurthy, and I'll give you my contact details. Please look me up on LinkedIn and reach out to me directly if you need to. And I'll start off with an overview of the business and then go to the videos. But before that, just a brief background of myself. I spent most of my time in my career with large businesses. Started in the Bay Area in the Silicon Valley. Did about 10 years with the technology business. Went with them to Singapore, to Israel, and then to the UK. I've been in the UK now for about 20 plus years.
And it's only about 5 years ago that we started Freespace. And that is because my background was at that time with real estate, with FM. And then I clearly saw the opportunity of the gap in FM and technology. And that was the motivation for Freespace. And what has happened post-COVID has been transformational, because we have taken all the technology that we built from 2015 and then applied it post-COVID to a much wider audience. And that has really caught a wave, and it's really now kind of taken to the next stage. So the underlying company, you'll see the name Workplace Fabric. Sometimes that is the name of the parent company. That's the legal entity. We trade as Freespace, and that's the way we are known predominantly. So what do we do? We are broadly operate in 4 areas, and this is essentially what we've been doing pre-COVID. It has not changed at all in terms of post-COVID, and it still very much applies. So real estate optimization is the first big part, which is to match your supply with your demand. So we help with that. So we are able to see this is what your demand is, this is what your future supply stock is of real estate, and this is how you can bring it together so to optimize what you have. The second area is workplace design. This is becoming much more important right now, with workplace being used in different ways. There's a lot of literature. There's a JLL report which says that 70% of the people are ready to shift to a flexible working approach as long as they get the type of workspace that they are looking for, which puts a huge emphasis on how workplaces are going to be designed. The third area is employee engagement, and this is again becoming a big part of how the world is going to evolve, which is are you allowing the employees to engage with the space, and how are you digitally helping employees to engage with the space? And this is where we have played, and you'll see from the examples that I share with you that's making a big difference and big impact. And the fourth area is smart infrastructure. This is how you essentially get the data that you're collecting from technology and make that data available to other systems to use that data to perform their functions with no people involvement in between, so that the infrastructure itself becomes smart with the data that it's collecting. And that is something that is a big part of our future focus as well, with all the integrations work that we're doing. So these 4 areas are broadly, what we have been working on for the last 5 years, and it's really bearing fruit right now. So the big questions when people are coming back in, from different perspectives, from the employee perspective, when should I come in? And will I have a socially distanced, clean desk near my colleagues? Very, very important. These things are very important because socially distanced, I'm conscious that we need to be more careful in the new world, how we are coming back in. I am concerned about cleanliness of the places that I'm coming into. How can you assure me on that? And there is a purpose why I'm coming to work. I need to be near my colleagues. I don't want to come into work just to do the same thing that I'm going to do from home. So there is a different purpose. So all these things have to be served from an employee perspective. From a real estate manager perspective, have I got the right amount of real estate to support this new way of working? Very straightforward question. How do I answer that question? And from a facilities manager, this is completely different, which is saying that how can I tailor a service based on occupancy? If I know how many people are coming in when, I can deliver a much better service. How can I do that? And then from a workplace manager or a HR manager, what do we need to support people to work effectively in this new world? What is the right design? What is the right kind of set of portfolio? So these are the big questions, and we believe we have the technology for the answers. And broadly speaking, the way we have defined the technology solutions are how we define the pathway to the new workplace, which is returning people safely, rebalancing the portfolio to make sure you've got the right type of portfolio, and reinvesting to make sure that you can take the portfolio that you have to the next level to help people. And here, the different stakeholders come into play, whether the person is an office user, whether they're the FM team, whether they're the workplace manager, the experience manager, or whether there's somebody who's sitting with the purse strings saying that we need to kind of, make sure the estate is working to the best way possible. And so the journey of the users, the different stakeholders, goes from safety and assurance, making sure that people are safe, to compliance and tracking, where you need to make sure that you're following the rules, and the rules could change, the rules could evolve, the rules could be different from geography to geography because we are a global company. So making sure that is happening. Tracking is important. Without tracking people, how can you make sure that you are complying with GDPR rules, but at the same time providing a safe environment? Then that moves into messaging and behavior. So how do you bring about change in behavior? What visual cues, what contact points, what touch points you can have to move people around, to rebalance the space as well as move people's behavior. And then use these analytics and the detail that we get from the data to start helping with the change, and finally the business intelligence to say, okay, this is what you need to physically change. This is where you need to reinvest in based on the data that we have. So that journey is what we are taking people on. And that's the products that are supporting the journey is what I would like to talk about briefly. So the kind of products that we are using is, for example, we have a full AutoCAD integration. So we can take the floor plan of a client, we can help them with the layout of the floor plan to allow for socially distanced spacing. And then we have this very low cost technology, which is a QR code, which now people are quite familiar with because they're scanning QR codes all over the place to kind of do contact tracing. That same QR code can be stuck on the desks, on the meeting rooms, and use an employee app. And we have built that app in a very simple way to schedule their time to come into the office, to scan the tag to say that I'm here, I want to check in. But the tag then is intelligent enough to give you a message saying that this space was cleaned at 6 o'clock yesterday evening, and nobody has occupied the space since then. That is something that we have built, and we are deploying that. So that very little low-tech piece of a tag plus software-only delivery using the app is something that we have successfully deployed. And then in the back end, all that information coming into an analytics portal to do capacity management, to do planning, to see who wants to come in, who doesn't want to come in, and which group is coming in, and seeing who's checking in and who is not, and so on and so forth. So that whole ecosystem of the first set of tools that people need to safely bring people back into the workplace. I talked about the socially distanced design. I talked about the tag, how it is stuck, but this is something that we have the capability to do it for each and every client. The changes, the differences they'll have in their own layouts. Talked about the app, very easy to use. The whole point of the app has been ease of use. One-click decision in terms of working from home or working from the office, requesting a specific type of place. I want a sit-stand desk, or I want a desk near a window, or what have you. And the system actually allocating that space when the time is right, maybe the day before you're coming in, so that you can make sure that the socially distanced desk has been cleaned. Making sure that you have a chance to say you're feeling well, maybe a questionnaire before you get allocated a space. But not only that, also to be able to see who from your colleagues are coming in on that particular day. If you remember, I said people are asking the question, why should I come in? Who else can I work with when I come in? And the app will tell you that, hey, on the day that you're planning to come in, these people are working from this office and these people are working from home. And that immediately starts the opportunity to start collaborating with your colleagues. So that is the starting point of saying, now, not only that I can work hybrid, I can work from home when I want to, but when I work from the office, I know I'm going in there with a space that is safe and reserved for me, with a purpose, which is to go and interact with the colleagues that I know will be there on that day in that office. Because again, what people are not got fully into their frame of mind is that when you get a choice of working 3 days of your time of the week from the office, your colleagues have that choice as well. And their 3 days might not be the same as your 3 days. So if you're expecting something, don't expect, if you're expecting flexibility, don't expect things to be exactly the same way as it was before COVID, when everybody was coming to the office every day. So little things like that, the app has made a big difference in helping. And then using that for planning, using that for allocation, which could be dynamic in terms of which space is allocated to whom, teams getting allocated space together and things like that. Solutions like, having allocated a cycle stand or having allocated a locker, knowing how busy the office is. That's another thing. Using the app to check in, to say I'm here. Using the app to find out when the space was cleaned or when the space was last used. All that is something that people are really liking in terms of the features that we have in our system. And of course, in the back end, the analytics, the analytics of who's demanding to come in, who is not coming in, and so on and so forth. And then the other parts of the technology kick in. The app is more recent in terms of how you need to plan to come into the office. This was not there before COVID. But what was there before COVID was navigation systems. So this is an example of one of our signage screens that we operate. We operate about 700 screens around the world. And this is a way you digitize the space and present it to people so that they can navigate the space. So with this screen, you can see where the available spaces are, which rooms are busy, which phone booths are busy. Now you're going to all these different types of settings, so people can use these different types of settings for different applications. From this one screen, you can see, okay, there are 4 floors in this building. On the 3rd floor, there is a space that is available for me. I can go and use right now in a dynamic fashion. Or on the same floor, across the floor, if there are 200 people on a floor, there could be many instances where you can't see what is across the floor. But with this screen, you can say, okay, I would walk to the right and then go straight ahead, and there's a phone booth available for me to use right now. Now, the question obviously is, how do you make that dynamic? How do you know at a given point what space is in use and what space is not in use? And that's where our sensor technology comes in, which is a technology that we have invested in over the last 5 years. On the right-hand top, you can see those are 2 types of sensors that we have. There are many other types of sensors, but those are 2 examples where the sensors detect the presence of people anonymously. It doesn't capture identity. It doesn't capture who it is, who is there. It just says that somebody is here. But that information is incredibly valuable, not only for people to navigate the space, like you see here. Immediately the sensors will say that space is occupied. The green dot will go to a gray dot because you don't want to have all red dots saying it's busy. You want to show what available spaces are. That's why you have the distinct green dot. It'll go to a gray dot as soon as the space is occupied. So clearly saying that that is not available. So only spaces that are available are shown on the screen, and that allows people to navigate. Plus there are rules so that people that are occupying desks don't lose their desks when they get up and walk away for 10 minutes. Whereas people who are occupying a phone booth may have the booths released if they are not going to come back within 10 minutes, which is okay because phone booths are meant to be used dynamically. So all that functionality is built into the sensors. But then the same data that is being used to help people to navigate the space is now available as analytics for the FM teams to analyze how the space is being used. So all that data is coming back as analytics, and people can make decisions on the space, say, oh, this kind of space is not popular at all. Why don't we take this out and put in space that is actually incredibly red, which means that it's being used all the time. The blue spaces are not popular, the red spaces are popular. Let's give more of the red spaces so that we can reduce the red to orange and reduce the pressure on those spaces as well. So suddenly you have all this rich data that you can use to design your space, and that can help you with the transition of moving from pre-COVID world to a post-COVID world. Another point I want to highlight is that same occupancy data now can be used to decide how you want to manage your cleaning resources. We have a tool, a handheld tool, that tells cleaners at the end of the day or during the day that this space has been used and vacated, and now you can go and clean it. And this tool interacts with the same spot tag, the same QR codes on the spaces to say the space, once they clean it, to use this tool to scan the tag and say the space has been cleaned. Because that then releases that space to people to say that it's available, and so that people can go there, check in and say, I'm using it. So that cycle of release, clean, use, release, clean can happen using these 2 systems. The spot tags on one hand, which just simply record an activity, and the clean reader, as we call it, on the handheld tool for the cleaner to actually say that they cleaned the space, and for the user to actually check in to say I'm checking into the space, or for the sensor to pick up the space is being used and actually record on the tag that the space is being used, so that that cycle can take place. I know I'm throwing a lot of information in a very short time, but hopefully it'll become clearer with the videos, or you can have questions coming at me. I just got a couple of more slides. That's it. The dynamics actually changes and become quite interesting when you look at meeting rooms. So meeting rooms, when somebody leaves the meeting room, you can have an option 1, which the sensor just picks up saying that the meeting room is empty, and it releases on a panel outside the meeting room, says that the room is available. That could be one option. But the second option could be, if you have a higher standard of cleaning, that sensor actually informs the clean reader, which is the handheld cleaning tool. The clean reader, the cleaner would go to clean the room, and they would then use the tag to release the room, saying that the room is now available for use. And then the user can then book it on their app, and then scan the tag to say that they're using it, or they're to check if it is clean. And the sensor then picks up the user when they start using it to say, now this room is in use. So this whole thing comes to life with the meeting rooms if you want to have the rooms being cleaned during the day as well. But if you want to go back to pre-COVID ways of working where the rooms only get cleaned at the end, you can go back to option 2 where it just simply releases the room and people leave and the user gets it on their phone and they can go back and check in and use the room as well. So there are the systems, the way the systems are built, they are built in such a way that you can kind of go with different options depending on changing circumstances. Maybe there is another outbreak and you've got to go back to the stricter way of working. The systems are there in order for you to help to do that. And then there is using applications for congestion management. Now, clearly spaces like washrooms, spaces like cafeterias, they, historically we have kind of accepted that those are spaces of congestion, but the congestion happens at small periods of times, maybe, during lunch hours or whatever. We have lived with it. We cannot do that anymore. We need to be more cautious. And the sensors, which are anonymous, which don't capture identity of people, are very, very useful in this case because they can tell you before you enter the congested area whether the space is, available or not. So if the urinals are busy or if the booths are busy inside the washroom, you don't even need to enter. And the sensors are able to pick up and tell the people outside that this is very busy, don't go in there. And the sensors are completely anonymous. They're simply capturing heat traces of people and they don't know who it is. It is simply saying that someone is here, so it's busy, don't use the space. And that's been quite successful. We've done that with a few clients now. So again, if we measure ourselves where we are physically, we are very heavily deployed in the UK. Obviously, US is also another area which is we are successfully deployed, quite popular. And we've had this growing business over the years in terms of deploying our solutions across the world. We've got more than 120,000 sensors now deployed globally. It's rapidly growing. And that's where our clients are. And, we've been kind of steadily increasing our footprint. I'd like to stop there really, ask for any question and answers. And I don't know whether I'll really have time to go into the videos of the clients. I'll try to squeeze in at least 5 minutes of that. But I think I've got about 5 minutes. So I'll let you tell me what would you rather do, look at the client videos or just ask question and answers. I'd kind of be with the way you want me to go, Teresa. I'm looking for your direction.
Does anybody have any questions for Raj? Feel free to stick your hand up. Darren?
Darren.
Yep, Raj, that was all really very interesting stuff. Thanks for presenting that. It's good to hear the good work that you're carrying out there across the globe in the response to the pandemic. My one query was in terms of the type of companies that use this technology, in terms of the cost of rolling that out. If you were a multinational corporation that you're based in Pasadena in California, for example, and you've got 50 offices across the world, in terms of the cost of rolling that out versus what's actually happening right now in reality with easing of restrictions going forward. And I suppose the question is in terms of the shelf life of something like this for someone who's going to invest in that infrastructure going forward. Do you see that as a long term? I'm sure the answer you're going to say is yes. But in terms of the need for that sort of technology going forward, I think it's absolutely relevant as it stands now. But in 5 years' time, for example, or even in a year's time, because a lot happens in a year, do you still see that being something that companies will be buying into?
Yeah, great question, Darren. I think the answer to that would be two-part. One is that there are some technologies that people were deploying before COVID. And the reason they were doing that is because they were moving towards, they recognize the fact that the way of working is changing. People are not coming there and sitting at desks constantly. They are, more and more collaborative work, more innovative work going on. And they recognize that very early on. And so they started moving into kinds of not flexible working, but adding flexibility in work. And what they realized is that the sensors are incredibly useful because it told them what is the right, what are the right kind of spaces that are needed. B, it helped people that are looking for flexible spaces to find them. And there is no other way to kind of give information about many available spaces across a wide area to anyone that needs it at any given time. There, you see so many variables in that. The only way to do it is to capture real-time data and present it to people and give them choice so that they can find it. So even before COVID, people realized that for those companies that were looking at flexibility, they were starting to deploy the solution. Now, what has happened after COVID is that the expectation, it has dramatically changed. The people I used to go before COVID to tell people about flexibility, and I was to get, shown the door in many instances because, we all have fixed desks and I don't need flexibility, go away. Post-COVID, it's like people are fighting with each other saying that how are we going to introduce flexibility into the system? Here is an approach which is there, ready-made, right? So I see that it's going to stay. I think people realize, once they realize what are the different options available for flexibility, they can only choose between two things. One is they are not going to be bothered about the cost of real estate. They're going to be having real estate available to everyone, even if they're coming to work only 3 days a week. Or they say that, no, we need to be conscious about this thing. We need to make sure people are getting the best spaces and given the flexibility and shown the flexibility. So we have to invest. But in reality, what we have seen is that the investment pays back within a year. It pays back within 9 months sometimes. So most of our clients have used the system and deployed it for a 3-year contract or a 5-year contract. And some of the clients that we deployed it in 2016 have renewed the contract and they're continuing it to deploy it across their other sites as well. So I can give several case studies. We can talk to several of our clients as well who have seen this being deployed and they look at it as a permanent, evolution. So it is going to stay. I feel more confident about that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Sorry, long answer.
No, great answer. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, then I suggest we move on to our breakout room section. So the NextGen Scotland Committee have come together with just a couple of questions that we thought folk might want to discuss. Camelia is going to share the questions now on screen. So the first one is, how is your organisation preparing for the return to the office? And do you have anticipated timescales, or will it be a phased return? Second question is, what kind of technology would you like to see being used in the post-COVID office? And the third question we can actually do as a Slido poll. The link to the Slido should appear in the comment section of this window. But looking forward to summer 2022, what do you think your working pattern will be? And there's a couple of options in there. The first one is I pick and choose on ad hoc days, which days I want to work in the office and which days I want to work from home. Second option is I work in the office on fixed days and the rest of the week I work from home. Third option is I work from home 1 week and then in the office the next week. Option 4 is I work 100% of the time from home, and option 5 is I work from the office 100% of the time. So have a wee think about that. Go into the Slido poll and send your response whenever you're ready to. So I think Camelia, our BCO organiser, is now going to send us off into our breakout rooms for 15 minutes, and we'll see you back here after that.
Teresa, I'll take leave. I might not be able to join back afterwards, but I'm very happy to have had the time and opportunity to talk to all of you. So please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. You should find me under Raj Krishnamurthy and at Freespace. So, and if you need to reach me, it is raj@afreespace.com. So thanks again for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. All the best.
Brilliant. Thanks, Raj.
Yes. Bye-bye.